Hey, good people, I'm your life coach, Shanese Powell, and I noticed that there are way too many individuals either unfamiliar with coaching, unable to afford it, or they're just not aware of how much it can do for their lives. This is why I started the What I Need podcast. The WIN podcast creates a space for people to access, well, what they need. We explore mental health by bringing awareness to our good and bad habits that help us or hurt us. We're just here to have those kinds of conversations that you need, they need, and what I need. Let's win together, good people. Okay, Jamie.
Hi.
I'm so excited for this conversation for so many reasons. I met you at the Women's Mental Health Summit. You were on the panel. So last week I spoke with one of the lovely ladies who wasn't on the panel, but she was like a participant like myself, and she was so inspired by it too. So we gleaned so much from you guys who were on, you ladies who were on the panel. So I'm really happy to be able to connect with you. And so let's just dive right on in. First things first, Miss Jamie, how are you doing today?
I am well. It is a good day. It's beautiful outside. We're on the right side of the earth. Today started with a photo shoot for me. So now I'm here. It's been an active day, but a blessed one.
I love it. I love that. How was the photo shoot?
It was good. So it's with the gym that I partnered with, and it was their spring and summer campaign that they're doing. So a little outside my comfort zone, but hey, saying yes to new opportunities, right?
Exactly. I love that. I love that. I always want to be the kind of person who is so busy. I'm like, okay, I just came from a photo shoot. Let me hop on this podcast. So so you kind of my superhero in a sense right now.
All right.
I'm gonna be like Jamie one day.
Well, I just need sleep. If you want the superhero part, let me get your sleep, okay?
Right. I love it. All right. So before I jump into asking any questions, I like to ask people, yes, how they're doing, but also who are you the person? Because we tend to delve into what we do and all our accolades and all our accomplishments. And it's always commendable to hear all these things. It's always great and inspiring, but we like to know the person behind all these accolades. So if you don't mind just introducing yourself, Jamie the person.
Awesome. Yes, I am Jamie. I'm an Atlanta native, so I grew up here in Decatur, and I just have such a vigor for life, like excited about everything, right? Trying to be optimistic most of the time. I understand that there are times that you can't be, but I'm a wife. I am a mom of two. I have a 9, almost 10-month-old and a 4-year-old. Yeah.
You just told me about them. You told me about the 9-month-old. You did not tell me there was a 4-year-old in the mix, ma'am.
I got a toddler and an infant, and that's why I was asking for your sleep.
Right.
A licensed mental health therapist here in the state of Georgia. I practice online right now, betterhelp.com. And I have been looking to engage in more speaking opportunities. I love to talk. I love reaching women. I'm all about women's empowerment. I'm here for people of color. Those are the things that get me passionate. I love fitness. I'm a fitness enthusiast. I'm God-fearing. Just trying to think of some adjectives. It's really funny you ask me, who am I? Because I talk to my clients often about how we start by what roles we play. So like, we start with, I'm a mom,
Correct.
I'm a therapist, I'm this, I'm that. So I was trying to start with some adjectives and things that I enjoy, like a vigor for life, fitness enthusiast, those type of things, because that's what makes me me. And because I am those things, it makes me a better wife, a better mom, a better therapist, XYZ.
Exactly. And I love that as you're talking about yourself, you end up mentioning the things that you are doing as a profession because it kind of intertwines. That's another way of saying you love what you do.
I do. I really do. I do. I went to school for marketing at the University of Georgia. Came out in 06. Feel a little old. But I went to school for marketing and couldn't find a job in that field. And I actually had an opportunity to do mentoring for high school age females, fell in love with it. And that's what precipitated me going to school for a grad degree in professional counseling. And then the rest just has been history. I liked engaging with the female youth. And so I was like, I want to get an official backing in like the science of people, just like
Mm,
understanding people, empathizing, sympathizing, connecting with people. So that took me away from a marketing focus to people over in counseling.
I love that. I
Thank
love
you.
that. So as I was doing a little, stalking, because I like to, I had to, people call it, let me call it research. So no, you're not a little intimidating. But as I was doing a little research, I saw that, yes, you are a fitness guru, which I absolutely love that. Um,
Thank you.
and I love that you're a fitness guru as well as a therapist,
Hmm.
right? Because I feel like therapists tend to focus a lot on the mental state. And I
Yep.
think the physical state takes a backseat as we
Mhm.
pursue the mental. And, one of the main things I love discussing on this podcast is mental health.
Right.
But like just to mention the physical aspect of it too, and to not forget about it, like waking up in the mornings and getting that exercise in, or maybe you like to exercise after a long, hard day, it helps with mental health. But I mean, just the physical thing just takes a backseat so many times when we're talking about people, how you're doing, what's going on internally. So can you tell me just the power of and the significance of just physical wellness?
They go hand in hand, just as you were saying. When you feel better physically, you think clearer, your mind is sharper. When your mind is sharper, you want to make sure that you take care of the vessel that you have. So they go
Correct.
hand in hand. A lot of the times, you can start very simply with like how much water you intake, how much sleep you have, do you move your body, what your diet is like. And that in turn works on your mental health as well as your physical health. Because when you take care of your vessel, your brain is a part of your vessel. You have to do the whole body thing, not just
Mhm.
parts of the body. Kind of like when you work out, you can't spot train. You just can't work on your behind. You can't
Right.
just work on a flat stomach. It has to be a whole body thing. Your mind is a part of your body too. So physical health and mental health go hand in hand. That's actually one of my bigger platforms is to make sure that you take care of all parts of you. Yes, your mind or yes, your body, but you got to do it all. You got to take care of all of you.
Beautiful. Yeah, because we are one being with different parts of us. So we need to make sure there's no one part that is being neglected. That's going to
Correct.
affect us
Correct.
negatively, not so much in the long run. It's affecting you now, whether you recognize it or not.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Right, right, right. Because even something like sleep deprivation, which I know hand in hand, firsthand, I meant to say, it affects your mental. You're not as, you're foggy, you're not as sharp, you're more irritated. Things
Yes.
get to you a lot easier with something like sleep deprivation. Or when you're hungry, you become hangry, right?
All
So,
right.
it all affects. It's like one system that works. It's not just an independent thing of each other.
And that's why I love talks like these that help us recognize what might be undernourished, what we need to pay attention to, what parts of us we need to feed some more so that we could be more whole human
More.
beings that can contribute to the world more effectively. Right.
Amen.
So,
Yes.
all right, I want to get into my first question for our time together, mindset and perspective. I did look into, what you do, and I noticed that you speak a lot on mindset
Mhm.
this whole. And anytime I hear mindset, I always think about perspective too, because for me, I use those two words interchangeably. And I'm very big on perspective shifting
Yep.
because I see how that can affect how someone lives their life, right?
Right.
And I see how that can either lead someone to success or take them away from it. It carries that much weight,
It
mindset,
does.
right? So
Does.
I would start with, what does mindset and perspective mean to you? What are their significance? Let's start there.
Well, it's everything, right? It's your outlook on life. There's a little picture that I've seen in my past of like two men, it's a top frame and a bottom frame, digging in a cave, working towards finding a diamond. And you know what I'm talking about? The
Yes.
guy on top is like, I'm never gonna find it. I'm gonna give up. And if from the picture that you're looking at, you see it's right on the other side of where he is, where he's digging, and he's like throwing the shovel down, walking away. Where the guy on the bottom is like, I know I got to be there. I'm almost there. I'm going to keep going. And both of them are right on the cusp of breaking that last bit of dirt to get to the diamond. And like, that's your mindset and perspective, right? If it's how you look at stuff, like I could give up now. I'm tired, throw the towel in, or I'm going to keep working on perseverance and going because I know this is going to yield something in the end. It's your outlook on things. It's like your mindset will impact your decision making. If you look at everything as doom and gloom, that's how everything is going to feel. So if you try to find the little bits here and there that feel like a little bit of bright light, you'll notice more little bits everywhere. Have you ever noticed, like, when you're looking for a certain vehicle, let's just say you want to shop for a Ford Explorer, and you go look at one at the car dealership. When you leave, everywhere you look now, you're going to see it at the mall, on the highway. You're going to see so many Ford Explorers on the road because your perspective has been on looking at this one vehicle. I'm interested in it. I might buy it. Now you see it everywhere. It's the same thing. When you look at something negatively or positively, whatever you choose to focus on, you'll see more of that.
That's good. I
Mhm.
never looked at it that way before. And
Mhm.
you're absolutely right. I remember when I was younger, my mom was so interested in a Caldina. It was a type of car. And she would be dreaming about it, wanting it. Everywhere we would drive, we would notice, oh, it's there and here and here. And I love that you use that analogy to explain perspective and mindset. Because yes, whatever you choose to focus on, you will notice it in everything.
It shows up everywhere.
That's so good. So if I'm
It shows up
choosing to
everywhere.
focus on the good things or on things that are worth uh, being thankful for, then I could be in a very terrible situation and still be able to see a thing
Right.
in that terrible situation that's worth being thankful for.
You spoke on perspective shifting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually one of the things I tell my clients the most. It's like, where do I start working on making changes? You start with what you focus on. If
Mm-hmm.
you start with gratitude listing, and when I started listing out the things that I was thankful for, it's very elementary at first. I was like, I'm thankful for this bed.
Right.
I'm thankful for these clothes. I'm thankful for my breath, which feels very like simple, right? But there are big things because everyone doesn't have a bed to sleep on. Everyone doesn't have a roof over their head or clothes on their back, things like that. So you start with what is in your immediate grasp. I'm really grateful to have two legs that I can move my body on. That may not be the case for somebody else or people who have two legs and can't use them, right? Or in pain, chronic pain, or something like that. So you start with looking at what you have rather than what you don't have. I gave one of my clients the analogy of like being focused on something, right? Whether it's like this job you want or trying to be perfect at everything. You're like looking on this one target and it's right outside of your grasp, still in your focus, but you can't reach it. And when you're so zoomed in on one thing that you don't have, you miss all these things around you, all the beauty in life that is around you that you do have. That's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Most people focus on what they don't. I want a man, a woman. I want a better job. I want a house. I want money. I want da 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 da. Well, what do you have? Who in your life pours into you? Until you get the better job, what are you thankful for in the job that you do have? It may not be the job you want, but it does provide you an income. It might not be the car you want, but you're getting from point A to point B. So finding the gratitude in what you have in front of you starts to shift that perspective from always focusing on what I don't have to paying attention to the things I do have.
Beautiful. Absolutely. And so you might not have the man right now, but you have that family member who is loving you in the ways that you need to be loved. So
Mm-hmm.
you're not as lonely as you think you are if you
Right.
shift your perspective,
Right.
right?
Or that I'm working on me so that when this partner does walk into my life or we bump into each
Correct.
other at Starbucks, I've been doing the work and I'm ready for this season now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. That's real powerful.
Amen.
Yes, there's mindset. Yes, there's perspective shifting. And when you shift your perspective, you are influencing your thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, how can one's thoughts have the power to make or break? That's so intense. That's giving life or death.
It is. It really is. And I think it's that serious. Like how you choose to look at things, what you think about, what you focus on. can be the difference between life or death.
Mm.
Like when you get into a groove of only noticing what is going down, down, down. So I operate out of cognitive behavioral therapy approach a lot, which is your thoughts affect your behaviors, which affects your actions, right? And so if your thoughts remain in dark spaces, dark places, I don't have, I'm without, I lack, I'm not good enough. It's just a train that goes down, right? You
Mm.
start noticing where you're not doing so well at work, or that nobody wants you, or your friends are not calling you, or you're never going to lose this weight, or I'm never going to be able to move out of this neighborhood. And it's just one thing after the other. So then your behaviors become a little more withdrawn, a little more isolated. You get wholly into this mindset that I'm not good enough. I'm not going to succeed at this. And it starts to affect your work, your friendships, your relationships, your all of this, right? Now your actions are going to follow. I might not show up to these outings. I might start calling out of work. I might start thinking really dark thoughts like, what if the world's better without me here? Thoughts affect behaviors, which affect actions. So if you try to work on changing your thoughts bit by bit, you want to take that trend into a upward swing. So if I think, all right, I'm going to focus just this week on what I say to myself in the mirror. When I'm in the mirror, I used to call these things toothbrush affirmations. Because if you're brushing your teeth morning and night with a good dental hygiene, you're in the mirror twice a day. What are you saying to yourself when you got to look in that mirror? How are you speaking to yourself? So if you take 1 week to focus on what you're saying while you're brushing your teeth, that's just a moment. You know, the Dental Association recommends at least 2 minutes of brushing. That's 2 minutes that you standing in front of this mirror. What are you going to say to yourself? And if you aim to make those statements to yourself for 1 week positive, it'll start to catch on. It's going to start to catch on. You may not believe it at first, but you walk in it until it starts to stick. I am great enough right now. What I'm doing is going to lead to something greater. This is toothbrushing.
I know what you.
So start focus on how you're talking to yourself. Then you're going to challenge yourself. All right, I have this crappy job. I hate it. I don't love it. Today, I'm going to set intentions going into my job, and I'm going to find 2 great things that happened at work today. A coworker came up to me and told me that they really love the way that I interact with the rest of the crew. That's positive. Or you notice that work slowed down for you and you get to get off an hour earlier. That's positive. So it really does matter how you choose to look at things, how you choose to think about things, what you want to focus on, because it will gradually change everything else.
I love that example that you gave, which is so practical and feasible. Like you can do it, right? Just stand in front of the mirror, brush your teeth, and say positive things about yourself. But for those individuals who, they've developed this habit of saying only negative things about themselves, they've developed this habit of looking for the flaws. And they find it difficult to stand in front of the mirror, see those flaws and ignore them, and instead focus on the positive. What would you say to an individual like that?
Oh, I mean, it takes work. It's hard. It's like if you want to work on changing your food habits, it's hard to do it cold turkey. You start with trying to incorporate more vegetables or less fried foods or not eating out as much. Or when you want to change your home, you want to do some home decor. You don't come in and do $50,000 of work on one day. It comes in steps. You got to focus on different areas. Start with your kitchen, then your bathroom, then your bedroom. It's the same thing of how you choose to work on what you're thinking about. You gave a really good example. So I'm 9.5 months, almost 10 months postpartum. And that photo shoot I did today, the still shots that they showed me on the screen, my immediate thing is to start picking apart my midsection. My face was fluffy, all of that. It happens, right? The key is to be able to start to redirect those thoughts. Well, you know what? Let me find a little bit of grace for myself. I am just 9.5 months postpartum. I am working on it. Where I was just 3 months ago, I'm not there anymore. I know that I'm trying to do the work. I'm trying to work on my eating habits. I'm working on moving my body more. I'm trying to get more sleep. Like finding those areas that I actually am doing the work rather than just harping on the wrong and staying on the wrong. So It takes practice. It takes anything. Same thing in the gym. You don't build biceps after lifting weights one time at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do the right things, stay
Mm-hmm.
consistent with it. Repetition. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to work on building that muscle, both literally and figuratively. So you have
Correct.
to stick with it. You have to work on retraining. There's so many rewords that I use in therapy: recalibrating, rewriting the narrative, refocusing, rephrasing, reframing. That just means I've done it this way. I'm working on changing to do it a different way.
Mm-hmm. So re is giving yourself another chance to get it better the next time around. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny,
Mm-hmm.
I was just having a conversation with someone who, she was just speaking to a very bad, piece of news that she heard, and she was really distraught about it. And her being that upset, I told her, hey man, don't let yourself get upset, because your being upset is not going to contribute to the situation and make it any better. And you're taking your peace away from yourself. And I'm like, God's got it. And she's like, yeah, but I'm still going to be stressed. I'm like, you know what? That is true, though. And that is absolutely valid. However, however long you decide to stay
Mm-hmm.
in that place and in that space of stress and distraught is up to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you spoke to that. I don't remember the exact words you said, but yes, it's like in the photo shoot, you notice those things about yourself that you were conscious about, but you chose, after you noticed those things, you chose to not stay there.
You're right.
So when we're doing the mirror exercises and we're finding it very tough and we're looking at blemishes instead of the things that are good about us, we're not failing, right? We're just training. We are reframing. We are training. So no, you notice, I don't know, like nose too big. Don't just go off saying, snap, I done got it wrong. Forget about this exercise. I'm failing at it. No, just say, okay, I'm noticing that my nose is too big. Let me reframe that thought and say, I can breathe through these nostrils when my mouth is closed. Can breathe through these nostrils, right? And I'm
Right.
able to smell my favorite fragrance that is vanilla at nighttime that lulls me to sleep. And then now you're thinking about more positive, better things that puts you in a better mood, right? So
Right.
it's not so much that you are controlling your thoughts, but you are managing them. How much of my energy will I give to
Woo!
that thing? How much of my energy will I give to this thing?
So you said something that I think is so key, and a lot of people focus on, I need to learn to control my emotions.
Mm-mm.
Well, you can't control your emotion, because most of the time when you feel something immediate, that's an automatic response. If something, you see something and you're like frightened or get immediately like upset, that's an initial response. You can't change that. But management is what we need to focus on. Emotional management. What's my next step? What do I feel next? What do I do with that sudden moment of fear? Like, am I going to freeze? Am I going to go to safety? Am I going to speak up for my, like, what am I going to do in this next moment? That's emotional management. A lot of people want to, I need to work on controlling my emotions better. You're going to be working at that for a long time. Because it's very hard to control something that comes so automatic.
Mm-hmm.
But if you work on emotional management, and there are two parts to that I feel like the world will be in a better place if people worked on their emotional intelligence.
There we
That's being
go.
able to identify what I feel. Oh my gosh, this person just said something that offended me. I feel upset. I feel bothered. I feel disturbed by that. That's emotional intelligence. Emotional maturity is the next step. What do you do with that feeling? I need to tell that person, you know what? Let me stop you right there, because what you said actually didn't land well with me. It bothered me a little bit. It offended me a little bit. Or I sat on it for a second. We had a conversation the other day, and what you said just kind of, that's emotional maturity, rather than being like, popping off at the mouth, or, just cutting someone out, or shaming them, or going on Instagram and being like, I hate when people da 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 da.
Mm.
Like emotional intelligence, being able to recognize what you feel, emotional maturity, being able to express what you feel or what you do with what you feel, lead us to emotional management. And that's where a lot of people need to work. I mean, they need to work. Think about it. When you hear these stories on the news that say 2 people got shot at an argument at the gas station, they felt something. They didn't know what to do with what they felt. They reacted immediately. Now you got lost lives and lives going to jail. So that's the whole, if we work on being better stewards of what we feel and what to do with what we feel, helps us get a lot farther.
Yeah, I love that you spoke on the emotional intelligence and how that deals with noticing what's going on here. And then there's the emotional maturity where you express what you've noticed, right? So that would involve confrontation, right?
People don't like that.
We don't like that, which is why, and as soon as you said that, I had to write that down because I didn't want to forget this. This morning, I was thinking about, because sometimes thoughts just quite randomly come to me. I'm a very deep thinker, so my thoughts go there, just, about the topic of ghosting, right? And how ghosting is oftentimes something someone does when they are afraid to have the tough conversations. Because in those tough conversations, they have to exercise emotional maturity, which they don't have oftentimes. Because you said emotional maturity is when you're able to express. The ghoster does not express. They absolve themselves of that responsibility, right? So what would you say to the person who oftentimes just want to run away from tough conversations, run away from the situation, maybe sometimes because they just don't want to hurt the person, And it doesn't have to be only in romantic relationships. It can be in a relationship between 2 friends or between 2 family members. It can be even like when someone hurts me, for example, and I'm just not wanting to express it to them how much it's hurt me, because then this conversation is too uncomfortable for me and the person. What do you say to the individual who oftentimes run away from those tough convos, run away from exercising emotional maturity?
Well, I do think that sometimes that type of running away is like a learned behavior. I mean, it falls under a lot of categories. It's a defense mechanism. I'm hurt. I don't know how to express the hurt. So I just, like you said, absolve myself of it. I don't deal with it. Sometimes we've grown up in households where we see that, this confrontation may have happened between our parental figures and they never talked about it. They had a blow up. Mom went to bed. They woke up the next day and it was like it never happened. Or you hurt my feelings as my sibling, as my friend, and we never just spoke on it. We just act like it keep going. So a lot of that is learned behavior. A lot of that is a person doesn't know how to express what they feel. It takes practice, like with anything. There's a phrase that says uncomfortable conversations are necessary for comfortable relationships. I think that you have to evaluate with the person that the transgression happened. Where do I value this person? What kind of history do we have? If I feel like this was a valid friendship, a valid relationship, a good relationship with my mom, dad, sister, where this person plays a role in my life, can I be like, even honesty? I don't really know how to put it in words, but I know it didn't feel good when you said this the other day. It's just a lot of factors that go into it. But the only way you get comfortable in doing something that you don't know how to do or that you've never done is to do something that you don't know how to do or never done. You will never be a better skater if you don't put on skates and get on the rink. You can't learn how to braid hair if you don't try and you got some jacked up braids in somebody's head. So in order to get out of that ghosting technique, that running away technique, that avoiding emotional conversations technique, you have to start. You have to start. And I think that like I said, if you look at the value of the person in your life, like this person has been there with you for a long time, or it's your sibling, or it's your mom, then you be like, look, hey. But again, there's a lot of backstory to those things. If you grew up in a household where we did not talk about things, I have a client and he's like, my family, we don't do any kind of confrontation. We just keep going like it never happened. The elephant is in the room and people are like, and they just keep going. So some of that is like seen, experienced, and learned. And then we carry that with us from something out of childhood or adolescenthood. And we take it into our relationships. We take it into our parenting. We pass these things along. The only way to break something and do something that you've never done is to do something you've never done. It applies for anything. You can't learn how to be better at makeup if you don't end up with a clown face once or twice.
Right.
Some uneven eyebrows.
Right.
You have to learn. And I think people are so afraid of the discomfort part that they never venture into the learning part. I mean, all of us at this age, most of us drive a car. Somebody had to teach you how to drive that car. You had to be afraid behind the wheel. You had to slam on brakes a few times where you and the driver were like, oh, you've had some close calls. You've messed up a parallel park.
Right.
You had to learn how to get better. Now you over here eating and applying makeup in the mirror while you're driving down
Right.
285, you know?
Right. Right. I love that that advice to think about the value of the relationship. Right? Because I think when you remind yourself of how much this person means to you, it will give you that push to have the conversation. Right? Yeah, that's good. That's good. And that's why I'm saying that's why I love convos like this, because a lot of us, and then there's a ghoster that's listening to this right now that can feel safe enough to learn from this conversation, and going forward when they have an opportunity to you know, to try to fix a thing, that they can just go to, okay, how much do I value this friendship? How much do I value this relationship? And if you value it a lot, if it's an 8 out of 10 in terms of level of importance, at least an 8 out of 10, then you know, okay, boom, this is something worth trying to salvage. Yeah. This is something worth trying to have a conversation about.
I'm a recovering people pleaser. There was a point in my life where I was very concerned about hurting other people's feelings so much to the detriment of my own, or not wanting to upset someone or not rocking the boat. So instead of addressing something, you just sit with it and you're upset about it, or maybe some passive aggressiveness in there, but it was never your feelings mattering first. That's what I've been there before in life. It's exhaustive, and you're never at the forefront. You're always putting how somebody else feels or what they need, or just making peace, always at the forefront. And so I call myself a recovering people pleaser because I had to learn how to come out of that mode. I'm gonna lay it out there. When you put everybody else's needs in front of your own, that's a mirror moment about where you are with your self-love, your self-respect, and how you view yourself. Because when those things are on the higher scale, you don't do that. You're not going to diminish or put the detriment of yourself before somebody else's. And so first thing I learned how to say was no, learned how to say no, because I was afraid to say no to some things because I didn't want to upset someone. And then the next thing I learned was to develop an attitude. I call it a FU attitude. I'm call it what it is, but not like being mean or conceited, but I have to not be so concerned about, making sure that every little thing doesn't upset you, because then I'm not paying attention to me. If it doesn't serve you in a positive capacity, if it goes against your morals and values, if it makes you diminish what you feel, if you got to actually put yourself to the side, then you really need to evaluate if you're doing it for the right reasons. And so coming out of that mode of trying to make sure that everything else was in the right place before me has taught me how to be more open about what I feel, more confrontational, I guess. I don't know. When you address something, not the negative confrontation like we're arguing, but I'm going to tell you this, because when I came back to Atlanta in 2021, we came out of Illinois when we moved back to Georgia. My first year, my closest people are my mom and my sister. And when I say evaluate the value of people in your life, I want them in my life. So I realized after being here for a year that the interactions weren't looking how maybe how I hoped when I came back after being away from 5 years. I felt like I was putting up a lot of I'm gonna come to your house. Do you
Mhm.
want to get up? I'm calling. And so I had a really uncomfortable conversation with both my mom and my sister. I said,
Mhm.
look, I'm tired of fighting to be seen. I'm
Mm.
tired of always feeling like I have to initiate. I'm giving 100%. I don't feel like it's reciprocated. I'm not doing that anymore. I love you. I want you in my life. You make a decision what roles you need to shift and play. Both of them stepped up to the plate. But I had to learn how to get to that point in my life where I could be like, look, this is how I feel. This is what it looks like. What we going to do about it? People are afraid to do that.
Mhm.
People are afraid to do that. One, because it don't always end up like, okay, you're right.
Right.
Do better. It don't always
Correct.
end up like that.
Yeah.
But I was holding on to the sentiment so much. It was toiling with me so much. I was hurt by so much. I was frustrated by so much. I'm sitting over here in anguish. They don't know I'm in anguish like that. They going on about their daily lives.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it became so much better after having a tough conversation. And now it's more reciprocal. Now, my mom showed up for ways with me having this baby that I never even imagined, greater ways than I could have prayed for. And
Mm.
it's our relationship has been strengthened. So, all from a tough conversation.
Beautiful. And thank you so, so much for sharing that. Um, I think about how nerve-wracking it might have been to have that conversation and to say to your mom and to your sister, hey, I feel like it's not reciprocated here. That's got to be tough, especially if you're coming from this tendency to please people, because now you're saying something to them that's not going to make them feel
Mhm.
pleasure. They will not be pleased by that. So you were actually going up against what you usually do. And there are a lot of people who because I remember having a client, I was having a conversation about what it is to say yes, because when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So if you
Mhm.
say yes to prioritizing someone else, you're saying no to you,
Mhm.
right? And if you say yes to prioritizing yourself, you're saying no to devaluing yourself, right? But she took it as, if I say yes to me, I'm saying no to them, then I'm mean, then
Mhm.
I'm being unkind,
Mhm.
right? And so she was trying to get in the habit of choosing herself, picking herself first, choosing herself first. But in that process, even as she was talking about how, yes, I'm choosing me, she sounded very bitter. She sounded very callous. It was coming across very rough. And I was like, hold on, wait now, wait. Because I see the reason why you're kind of sounding bitter or angry is because you're doing something you're uncomfortable with. But I want this process to be a pleasant one for you so that you will keep on doing it. Right.
Mhm.
So I guess no, my question is how how do you talk to the person, or what do you say to the person who, yes, they're trying to say yes to themselves more, but that experiences it's so uncomfortable for them that they are coming across very harsh and angry. How do they manage that kind of discomfort so that even though, yes, it's uncomfortable, I'm still gonna say yes to myself because and make this experience a pleasant one for me?
How are they expressing their anger? When you say like they're coming across angry, it's like,
Right. So it's like they will say, I'm gonna just give an example, which is not hers, but just a scenario. Um, when I went out, like, say it's me, for example, that find it hard to say no to people and say yes to myself. I went out with my friends, and they know I'm hungry because I've been out all day, and they didn't even, offer me any food. But I know if I were in their shoes, I would have offered me food a long time ago. But they didn't do that. But it's cool, it's whatever. I'm saying yes to me. I'm choosing myself. So I went and bought me some whatever and had the meal for myself and da da da. Right. So it's kind of a bit like she's moving off of bitterness,
hmm,
right? And she's moving with anger and not so much of, oh, okay, they didn't think that, I needed something to eat. Maybe I should express to them that, hey guys, let's have something to eat. I'm feeling kind of hungry. So instead of, treating it or dealing with the situation that way, they went ahead and just in this bitterness and in this anger, trumped off to do whatever, you know? So that's an example of what it is. Like, you're so uncomfortable with saying no and or saying yes that it's like an uncomfortable, it's an angry experience as opposed to one where you're just choosing yourself to fill yourself.
Well, the initial thing I would ask is a person aware that they're operating out of spaces of anger and bitterness and resentment?
Mm-hmm.
And if they do become cognizant of that, to evaluate what are the origins of that. So if I feel like my friends tend to overlook me or they don't consider me enough,
Where's that coming from?
where's that coming from? Yes, on the surface, it looks like your friend group not thinking about you, but that goes actually back somewhere else where you might not have got picked on the basketball court in childhood, or you feel like I tried to express myself to my parents and they all were like, hush, you fine, or dismissing actually, well, I'm hungry, mom. No, you not. I done gave you enough food. So there's somewhere if we immediately operate out of spaces of anger, resentment, bitterness, that there's something deeper that this started from. And I'm triggered in a situation like this where I went out with the girls. They didn't even think to consider me. And now I'm mad. And now I'm like, F y'all, I'm going to go do this. That's coming from somewhere. It has a different origin point. It's just been triggered in this moment because it feels like something I've felt or I'm something familiar out of my past that I can't quite put a finger on. But that might have meant that you weren't heard, or you felt unseen, or you felt unacknowledged somewhere in a former situation, in a foundational part of your life that wasn't fed or nurtured or reassured, and now it manifests itself in your adulthood. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It absolutely does. Right.
Mm.
Yeah, that's good. So it's not so much surface level of, oh, she's just simply uncomfortable, or let me use myself as an example. I'm simply uncomfortable with saying yes to me. It's never always surface level. It's always like attached to something deeper.
If I'm uncomfortable saying yes to me, then I've been reminded somewhere in my past that I'm not supposed to say yes to me first.
There we go.
Sometimes you have parents who be like, I took care of you when you were young. You're supposed to take care of me now. Or I've done all this for you. You need to do this for me. Or feeling, I don't know, sometimes we operate out of spaces of obligation. Even when it's a harmful space, we operate out of spaces of obligation, which could lead to saying yes to things that you don't need to say yes to, or, ignoring that I don't feel comfortable doing this or don't want to do this. So I feel kind of obligated to do this. I'm gonna do it
Correct.
anyway.
Mhm. And
Most things.
even if it's just a job, like, I hate this job, but I'm
Mhm.
gonna say yes to it.
Well, yeah. I mean, literally, it's so funny how as you get older and older, you can almost pinpoint the things you struggle with in your adulthood to some origin in your formative years. If you weren't if you didn't grow up in the type of household where love was shown or embodied through action and words, love might have been like, I bought you new shoes, or love might have been like, I don't know, I'll let you hang out longer with your friends or something like that. But you weren't reassured through words like, I love you, or you're beautiful, or I think you're amazing, or actions like one-on-one time, hugs, kisses, things like that. If you didn't see that, you're going to struggle with that in your adulthood. You'll think because you done got in a relationship with a man who buys you gifts that's love, but doesn't spend time with you, but doesn't reassure you with words of affirmation. Or you'll think that people want to always be around you. You're the life of the party. That's love. But there's still an emptiness because somewhere in those formative years, that actual we need, falling on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, these things that we need to feel secure and safe and like weren't given in those capacities.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Absolutely. And that's where trauma comes up. And
Mm-hmm.
then we start acting out and being a certain way because of the trauma, uh,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that we've dealt with in the past, but didn't quite deal with.
Didn't quite deal with.
Didn't quite deal with. Yeah. We could go on for hours. We could really go on for, but thank you so much. This has been helpful. I gleaned a lot. I know I did for sure. I'm going to leave with this last question, which is what book or maybe books you're reading right now, even though you have two children and taking photo shoots and all the things. If you
I
have
am halfway through Michelle Obama's The Light We Carry,
time.
and I just added Atomic Habits to my Audible because I'm going to do chapter by chapter with one of my clients
Hmm.
to hold her accountable
Mhm.
to initiating to do something for herself. And it's a book I also want to read. So we're
Mhm.
going to take it chapter by chapter. So halfway through The Light We Carry and going to start Atomic Habits.
Why the light we carry?
I
Why?
mean, it's Michelle Obama, but it was actually a recommendation from my therapist. So
Oh.
I she has a soothing voice. And just like listening to some of the childhood doubt that she had and struggles, and she had a very tight-knit loving family and learned a lot from the experiences there growing up on south side of Chicago. It's just a very comforting listen. I'm listening to it. So that's why I started there. My therapist actually recommended it.
Okay, cool. I oftentimes ask what people are reading because it lets me know where they are in life, or it gives me a little inkling of what it is they're pursuing or wanting for themselves or for their life.
What'd you gather from that?
What
From
I gather that you are constantly working on yourself, but you're also constantly working alongside other people as they work on themselves.
Mhm.
Because the first book, The Light We Carry, is for you, and you're sticking to that. That is your self-development. So you're pouring into yourself. And then the other book that you're reading, The Atomic Habits,
Mhm.
is for your client, but you're also having it benefit you too, right?
Mhm.
So I see that there is you pouring into yourself so that you can pour into others.
You're right. Mhm.
That's what's
Mhm. I have worked too hard in life not to pour into me. Like I said, I've done it the other way, where you
happening.
try to pour from an empty cup, and
Mhm.
that's never successful. So I've worked very hard not to have to compromise this for anyone else. I always say I won't compromise me for my husband, my kids, sister, mom, dad, anybody. I worked very hard to get to this point. So, things happen the way they happen. People fall the places they are supposed to fall, but you have to make sure that you do not neglect yourself.
That's
So
so good. And we're gonna leave on that note. Thank you, Jamie.
you are
Thank
most welcome. Thank
you.
you for this opportunity too.
Of course. Thank you for coming on here and thank you for having this conversation. And I do hope that you will continue to pour into yourself so that you can more effectively pour into others. And I will do the same. You've truly inspired me. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Have a good one. All right.
Take
Bye.
care.